We are following the breaking news that former President Donald Trump's classified documents case in Florida has been postponed indefinitely. David Weigel and Fin Gómez are here for analysis. David is a political reporter for Semafor, and Fin is a CBS News political director. Okay, guys, so one trial postponed. There are plenty of others, but is this a win for President Trump that, we don't know when this is going to happen, and it was originally supposed to happen on May 20th?
Oh, it's obviously a win for him, but none of these cases have been moving votes all year. And really, since the charges were announced, the first thing they did was rally Republicans to Donald Trump, both with money and support in the primary. A lot of Republicans now say the primary was over as soon as he was indicted by Alvin Bragg. And even right now, there have been lots of cameras and lots of reporters in a courtroom in New York, and it has not broken through coverage of campus protests. It's not broken through coverage of Gaza. Democrats that I talked to, not the only relevant party here, but Democrats who want to beat Donald Trump do not think either the indictments are hurting him very much or the charges or the delays are hurting him very much.
Could a conviction hurt him, Fin?
A conviction in the Alvin Bragg case, could it hurt him? People in his camp believe that it won't. Like, they see that. I've talked to top Democrats as well. They don't like, as David said, they don't see that there's been really an effect. We're basically even at this point, 6 months out before the election. I did talk to someone close to the Trump team just before we came on, who says this news about the docs case is welcomed and expected. And they say justice always prevails in the end. And they feel absolutely bolstered by this. And they do expect there's going to be more campaign travel, more traditional campaign travel by the former president post this hush money election interference case. But, frankly, speaking to Republicans, speaking to Democrats, there does not seem to be any sort of inclination or indicator that this will have an impact from what we're seeing right now.
And,
at this point,
even though he isn't on the campaign trail, as we've talked about a lot, he is. Can you talk about how he is using his time in court in his favor?
Well, he's giving short press conferences of a sort every single day. He's getting in the news cycle every single day. He is complaining at a lot of these events that he's not allowed because of the trial schedule to campaign around the country. Now, he wasn't traveling that much during the weekdays, even during the presidential primary, with the exception of the 1 week before the New Hampshire primary. But that is a message that his voters hear. It's a message to Republicans, since they've been restacked at the RNC with his relatives and with party leaders he likes, has been raising a lot of money on. So he's been engaged in the campaign at a level that has satisfied the Republicans I talked to.
He's complaining again. He's complained just today. He complained about the fact that he's not in Wisconsin. Yeah. The president is going to Wisconsin tomorrow, as we know. But he's complaining about this. But frankly, to contrast Dave's earlier point, I looked across the cable channels today, and they're wall to wall all about the Trump hush money trial. At the same time, people close to the president and his campaign say this is the split screen they want. They want the president to be speaking about issues like the big anti-Semitism address he gave today, and then you contrast that with the former president and these lurid details of a adult actress from a few years back. So look at that contrast. They want voters to look at that contrast.
And David, I want to ask you about your new article out about Trump's giant soft spot for indicted Democrats. What do you mean by that?
Well, every time really since he was president, when he pardoned Rod Blagojevich, former governor of Illinois, Donald Trump has generally taken the stance that if a politician has been indicted, if he's gone to jail, there probably was some railroading involved. That started with being annoyed that James Comey was part of the legal team that brought down Rod Blagojevich, that sent him to jail for 14 years. He commuted most of that sentence. That continued with the former mayor of Detroit, Kwame Kilpatrick, continued with Bob Menendez, continued in the last week with Henry Cuellar in Texas. And there are Republicans who, in a kind of a cheeky, cagey way, say that they love these indictments because they get to run against the Democrat and they want to tie the party to it. Trump breaks from that and says, no, I'm sure that he's only been indicted because the Biden Justice Department is political and it's going after his enemies. It fits right in, sinks right into what he's running on. And yeah, I think there are some ways it's hurting him with voters who are not Republicans, not but already, but it's very consistent.
Right. So it's a new installment in the ongoing book that the justice system is rigged, which we are very familiar with. So David Weigel, Fin Gómez, thank you so much for both of your reporting.
Thanks.